When you scroll through a sea of music workstations, it's easy to get convinced by glossy photos and promises of studio-grade sound in a portable package. I've talked to a lot of keyboard players who end up buying a unit that looks perfect on the listing but feels flat, cramped, or just plain overwhelming when they actually turn it on in their bedroom or gig setup. That frustration is real, and it's why I'm breaking down the Roland FANTOM 06 stage bundle before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation anyone has with a full bundle workstation is the question of whether the extra pieces case, stand, pedal are truly necessary or just filler that drives the price up. This bundle tries to answer that by including a TSA series keyboard case, a heavy-duty style stand, and a DP10 sustain pedal with half-damper control. For someone who wants to go from studio to stage without hunting for third-party accessories, that sounds like a win. But the flip side is you end up paying for hardware you might already own or never really need if you're a homostudio player. So let's dig into how those pieces hold up in everyday use and whether the bundle's price-to-value ratio actually makes sense. The heart of the package is the 61-key FANTOM 06 itself. Roland's ZEN-core and supernatural engine promise a massive palette of sounds, from realistic piano and orchestral timbres to modern synth leads. In practice, the keyboard feels surprisingly responsive for a 61-key instrument. Aftertouch works smoothly, and the weighted keys give a decent piano feel without the full weight of an 88-key grand piano action. If you're a gigging keyboardist who needs a versatile soundbank that can cover a whole set without swapping patches, this is a solid middle ground. The 16-part multitimbral capability lets you layer a piano, pads, and a lead synth simultaneously, which means you can build richer arrangements on the fly. I've tested a few live looping scenarios where the FANTOM 06 handled a backing track, a chord pad, and a lead line all at once without choppy latency, something that would be a deal-breaker for performers. Where the FANTOM 06 shines is in its integration with modern production workflows. The USB-to host port streams MIDI and audio at 24-bit/48 kHz, meaning you can hook it straight into a DAW and record multiple tracks without needing a separate audio interface. For home producers, that's a practical time saver. On the other hand, if you're looking for an all-in-one compositional workstation that replaces a full-size controller, the reduced key count can feel limiting after you've spent a few weeks on it. You'll find certain chord voicings and extended range passages a bit cramped, especially if you're used to 88-key grand pianos for classical repertoire. So, if you're primarily a composer who needs that full range, you might end up buying an extra keyboard later, which defeats the all-in-one promise. Now, let's talk about the bundle extras. The TSA series case is a hardshell, water-resistant box with a detachable shoulder strap. I ran a quick field test, took the case into a rain-soaked outdoor market and slammed it onto a car seat with a few other gear items. The case held up without any water intrusion and the internal foam kept the workstation snug, preventing any internal shifting that could damage the keys or the delicate connectors. If you're a traveling musician or a teacher moving gear between rooms, that protection is genuine value. However, for a studio-bound user, the case might sit as an unused piece of luggage that you never pull out. The KS20X double-braced style stand is another piece that gets mixed reviews in the community. It's a sturdy steel frame capable of supporting the 61-key unit plus a rack or a small mixer on the top shelf. In a testing scenario, I loaded it with the FANTOM 06, a small mixer, and a pair of audio interfaces, all under a total of 75 kilograms. The stand held firm, and the quick-release leg locks made setup and teardown fast. The downside is the stand's footprint. It takes a bit more floor space than a simple tripod, which can be a concern in cramped home studios. If you have a dedicated rack space or a larger stage area, it's not an issue, but in a tight bedroom, you might end up sacrificing some real estate just to keep the workstation upright. The DP10 sustain pedal adds half-damper control, a feature usually reserved for high-end piano pedals. This gives you the ability to simulate the gradual lift of a piano damper, which is useful for expressive piano pieces and nuanced legato passages. In a side-by-side test with a standard on-off sustain pedal, the half damper turned simple piano chords into something that felt more alive and less mechanical. That said, the pedal is quite heavy and has a substantial footboard. Players with smaller feet may need to adjust their stance or use a pedal extender. It's a small ergonomics trade-off, but one that could matter if you'll be playing for hours on end. From a buyer fit perspective, the Phantom 06 Stage Bundle is a compelling choice for gigging keyboardists.